Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Story time. About 10 years ago, me and my older sister found out our father was cheating on my mom with a younger woman. It turns out this was not the first time. Finding all the evidence, we told my mom about it. Even though she was devastated, she decided to remain with him. She was worried about social status as well as us not getting money. Fast forward to now. My sister no longer speaks with our parents, and my father has continued to cheat on my mom. Literally, my household has become a minefield of emotions. I'm still in contact with my sister, but my parents are resistant with that relationship. My father and mother no longer speak to each other to the point that it's two strangers living in a house, but still refuse to get a divorce. I've had to mediate between both parents since middle school, to the point where I am so desensitized to my father's cheating that I don't give a crap. Along with this, my father continues to hold it over me that I ruined his marriage, as well as his chance of a personal life. A couple of days ago, my father asked me to buy a purse for one of his lady friends when I was on a shopping trip with my mom. I actually bought the purse thinking in some sense it would garner some affection for myself. I honestly felt so guilty that I had to return it, since I had to lie to my mom to actually get the purse. My dad now no longer is speaking with me and is calling me a coward for not buying the purse. It's obvious my father is a toxic part of my life, but some part of me wants to try to help change him. Any advice, please? Edit 1. I'm staying with my parents until I start work, and after that, I'm out of here. My first plan is to become completely financially independent from them, so there's no hold over my situation. Thankfully, I have a job that gives me the capability. This situation literally slapped me in the face and has showed me I can't change him. My father does not deserve any of the love I was willing to give him. Oh, cripes. Psychologists call this triangulation. A two-person relationship that lacks stability tends to stabilize itself with a third person, to the third person's detriment. The third person is often a child, who gets roped into a role in which care is conditional on them acting as a co-parent, instead of the child that they are. It's backward and it's really bad. OP needs to get out of the triangle and should not parent her dad. OP is the one who needs parenting and care here. I, 27 male, have two siblings, 24 male and 20 male. We used to belong to a family of 5. But sadly, our mother passed away from cancer earlier this year. It has been tough for all of us, but has been especially hard on my younger brother, who is currently in college. He failed 2 semesters in a row this year due to difficulty coping with this situation and is on the verge of being suspended. Only 2.5 months after my mother's death, my father informed my sister and I that he had already found a new girlfriend and was in a serious relationship. My sister and I were shocked and disappointed. Finding a new partner after only 2.5 months seemed rushed and offensive. My sister and I explained to him that while we were willing to accept him moving on to someone else, we were, however, not interested in being involved with this new woman in any way. It was just too soon. We also made it very clear to him that he needed to hide this situation from our brother, who was struggling to pass his classes. This was his last chance, and if he were to fail the semester again due to difficulty coping with the situation, he would be suspended for a year. Our father claimed to understand our concerns and apologized for any added stress this put on us. He also claimed to fully agree about hiding the situation from my brother for now. I hoped at this point that the situation was under control. Sadly, it was only about to get much worse. Around a week before Thanksgiving, my brother was flying home from school for the holidays. At his school, they get around 10 days off before they have to fly back to take their final exams. School is on quarter system. My sister and I expected our dad to stay home to spend time with our brother. After all, this was the first major family holiday since our mother's passing, and we assumed our dad would want to make sure our brother was okay and ready for exams. We were mistaken. The morning after my brother arrived home, not only had our dad decided to tell my brother everything about his new girlfriend, but he also just left the house to travel to a different state to spend the holidays with her. Not only did he show blatant disregard for my brother's situation, but also showed no interest in spending the first major family holiday since his wife's passing with his kids. On Thanksgiving, He didn't even text or call me or my siblings to ask what we were doing. My siblings and I were furious with him over his behavior, and we had a huge fight. He basically tried to gaslight us, claimed that we were overreacting and that we didn't care about his life. He also acted very entitled, demanding we get on board with his new relationship. He then casually dropped the bombshell that he planned to marry this woman next year. Given his blatant disregard for my brother's well-being and overall distasteful behavior, I've decided I won't be going to his wedding, and I basically don't speak with him at all, beyond replying yes or no the rare time he does message me. Am I the a-hole? Wow, my heart breaks for OP and his siblings. This is a horrible thing to do to your children. So, if he is serious with after supposedly only 2.5 months, I wouldn't be surprised if he was cheating on OP's mother the whole time. I am a great believer in karma, and what goes around comes around. So I'm sure OP's father will be hit with massive karma in the future. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Want to believe in magic says, not the a-hole. Your father appears to have died with your mother, and a selfish, overgrown child has taken his place. I hope you, your sister, and your brother can support each other through all of your grief and heartbreak. Tell your dad you need a break from him and block him. Never mind one-word answers. Ariana says, not the a-hole. This is a well-known thing men do. As soon as their spouse is dead, sick, or injured, they jump ship as fast as possible to a new thing. There's many theories, but it's more prevalent amongst men who treated their wives like servants. Did your parents split the house chores in the parenting, or did your mom do it all while your dad was on the sidelines? Unfortunately, men like this would rather divorce themselves from their families to please their new partner. He is a pathetic coward, afraid of being alone and taking care of himself, so he would rather abandon his family. Let him. Go no contact and let him go. Fun Yellow says, not the a-hole. I've said it before and received some nasty comments. Women mourn and men replace. My grandmother told me this decades ago, and I found it to be true over and over again. My mother was my world. I remember reading books, watching documentaries, and going on road trips with her. She baked my sister and I cookies whenever we were sick. Her and Dad would take us hiking every other week. I still miss her even now. When I was 11 years old, she passed away from a driving accident. It was the hardest year in my life, and it hasn't gotten easier. 2 years after she passed, my father started dating a woman named Nicole, and 4 years later, they're getting married. Nicole is younger than my father. After dating Nicole, I saw my father come back into his shell, but it turned into something else. Nicole brought adventure back into his life, but they often went on elaborate trips and frequent nights out. During all of this, I felt neglected. My father slowly stopped taking my sister and I on our weekly hikes. He started speaking less and less over calls, and he even once forgot my mother's birthday. After she came into our lives, I started losing my father. He just wasn't there anymore. One time when my sister and I were home alone, she fell down the stairs and got a huge cut on her forehead. It was clear she needed stitches, so I called my father immediately. Nicole answered the phone, and I told her to give the phone to my father. She refused, saying he was busy, and before I could get another word in, she disconnected the call. I embarrassingly had to ask the neighbor to bring us to urgent care, where my dad later met us. This woman at one point removed my mother's picture from the fire mantle and put up a picture of her and my dad from their trip to Washington. The thing that tipped me over was when she made my father forget about my mother's birthday. Every year, my sister and I go with our father to visit my mother on her birthday. It was an annual tradition even before Nicole entered our lives. Nicole and my father went on a trip to Florida and were supposed to be back 3 days before my mother's birthday. But because this woman is motion sick, my father decided to break their drive back into small intervals to make it easier on her. Because of this, he ended up missing our annual trip. He didn't even call us. Not even a week later, my father has the nerve to tell us about an exciting surprise. Nicole is pregnant. I get angry and tell my father, "You need to knock her butt up when you can't even be here for us?" I then look at Nicole and tell her she is a disgusting piece of trash and to get out of our lives. My father gets angry and yells at me to go up to my room. Later, my grandpa unexpectedly came over to pick me up. My father didn't text me crap. Even as I left, he wouldn't even look at me. It's been 2 days, and I'm still at my grandparents' home. I feel ashamed for saying what I said, Yet I don't feel overwhelming regret. Am I the a-hole? Edit. When I saw how deep the cut was, I immediately called my dad. He was staying over at Nicole's place at the time. When I called, Nicole picked up. She said, "Hello." I said, "Sister's name is Bleeding. Can you pass the phone to Dad?" She said, "Dad's name is busy. I can't." And immediately afterwards, she disconnected the phone. I then left to go to my neighbor. OP's father is a horrible human for basically abandoning OP and OP's sibling when they needed a parent the most. Father is completely abandoning OP, to the point he called his parents to remove OP from the home. OP spoke the truth, even if it was harsh. I don't know how OP can improve this situation though. With a baby on the way, OP may see Nicole become more manipulative. And now let's hear the community's opinion. DG875 says, "Not the a-hole. Nicole showed her colors when your sister was injured, and she wouldn't let you talk to your dad. And he has showed his colors too, in many different ways. I hope your grandparents can continue to be there for you. You didn't say your age, but I hope you can be free from all this soon, i.e. be 18. You were harsh and rude, but I can't fault you given what you've shared." No Royal says, "OP, I'm so sorry you two children are neglected. Not the a-hole 100 times. Ask your grandparents to get your mother's heirlooms out of the house, and I really hope you can lean on your grandparents and stay with them. Tell them of this neglect. Also, check that your mother's legacy, inheritance, is not stolen from you. Your father is not a good parent or a person. He has abandoned you when you have lost your mother and would deserve special love and care. Hope you can go to counseling for emotional support. Work on your school, cling to your sibling and grandparents, and any aunts, uncles if you have any. Lean on friends." Jesus SD says, "Not the a-hole. Both Nicole and your father are extremely dismissive of both your sister and you. They only think of themselves and don't worry about your well-being or even try to keep in touch with you often. I understand your father might want to spend time with Nicole, but he should also prioritize you since you are his daughters. I hope he has an epiphany someday and realizes how much he messed up, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon." Update. I've called my maternal grandpa when everyone was still sleeping. It ended up being a 2-hour call. I basically mentioned to him everything I've said here and how I want to live with him if possible. He said that as much as he wants me to go get out from there, he can't do much without my father's approval. I hinted at a legal approach, but he said he wouldn't be able to see us if it got that far. My grandpa also shared some new info regarding my dad. According to him, when I was 14 and my sister was 10, my dad dropped us over at Grandpa's farm since he and Nicole were flying out. A day after they returned, my grandpa dropped us back home. We were still sleeping in Grandpa's car when this ordeal happened. But when my grandpa knocked on the door, my dad answered the door drunk out of his mind. From what little he could see, my grandpa saw that the house was a mess. He told Dad that he would bring us back the following day once my dad was in his right mind. We left back to Grandpa's place. Then my grandpa got a call from my dad the next morning, threatening him with the police if he didn't bring us back immediately. My grandpa mentioned that he would speak with my paternal grandparents to see if something can be done about our situation. Update 2. Regarding Thanksgiving dinner. When my dad and Nicole arrived, I asked if I could speak with them both. My dad said he didn't want to talk and went into the living room. Nicole still remained by the front door, so I apologized for insulting her. She replied that she needed to leave and went to the living room. Overall, she still seemed rightfully angry with me. Dinner was awkward because my grandma would try to get my dad and I to talk, but he wouldn't really bother. After dinner, I pulled him aside and apologized again. He ignored me and went straight to Nicole. I still wasn't sure if I was heading back with him or not, so I packed everything just in case. When he was getting ready to leave, I asked him if I could come back home. He said Nicole wasn't comfortable having me home, even though it had been a few days since the incident. I spent the entire night crying on the phone with my sister. Therapy and living situation. After having my call with my maternal grandpa, he called my paternal grandparents a couple days later to discuss my situation. I overheard the call between them. My maternal grandpa expressed he was concerned about me, especially my mental state, and asked my paternal grandparents if they were willing to talk to my dad about putting me in therapy. My grandparents said they'd be willing to take me to their church's mental support group or talk with their faith leader who specializes in grief counseling. My grandpa pushed back on the idea and mentioned a need for more professional help, but they were not receptive to the idea. All three of them also had a heated conversation about my living arrangement. My grandpa said it was ridiculous for a grown man to throw out their daughter, and it was shameful that my paternal grandparents are not hard-pressed in helping me get back home. That's all I heard regarding the conversation. Now, my grandma started taking me to weekly private sessions with the faith leader. I'm not entirely happy with the arrangement, but it has helped me to start processing my grief in a healthier way. Also, I'm still living with my grandparents. I apologized over and over through text to my dad and through my grandparents, but he has not responded. My maternal grandpa has called my dad many times, but my dad blocked him. I'm contemplating telling my school counselor next semester all the details regarding my dad and not omitting anything to protect him. I also wasn't invited to my dad and Nicole's Christmas dinner, which hurt, but I'm starting to not care to have a relationship with my dad. I don't know if my feelings will change. In a twisted way, it was good he didn't let me go back home with him. The space has helped me focus on myself.